Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening to Horror/Stories. I'm Sarah, and I've been a little bit under the weather, so I'm rushing a tiny bit, but I wanted to get an episode out to you before Halloween, since this is a horror movie podcast after all. So without further ado, I bring you a conversation about the iconic 1999 found footage film, The Blair Witch Project. Unfortunately, we encountered some technical difficulties while recording this episode. I don't know, maybe we were cursed by the Blair Witch or something, including getting booted out of the virtual studio while recording the episode intro, so it did not save. But this episode's guests are Bryan Farrell, Anastasia Putnam, and Nenia Campbell, and I'm excited for you to hear their thoughts on the movie. Thanks for listening. So I would love to know, each of you, what your background with the Blair Witch Project is. Like, do you have a memorable story associated with it? Was this the first time you've seen it? Yeah.
So my experience with the Blair Witch was no experience until yesterday. Although I will say, I don't know if anyone remembers College Humor, but it was the hub of college age humor back in the 2000s. And my only experience with the Blair Witch was they had this episode I remember very viscerally where it was movies that could have been 5 minutes long if everyone had cell phones, and the Blair Witch was one of those, and that cracked me up. So it was kind of cool to watch it and be yeah, that probably would have fixed it, maybe.
I challenge that because a witch can definitely interfere with technology, so I'm going to challenge that person's perspective.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if she can control people, if she could take over people, I'm sure she can block signals on cell phones.
Oh my God, can you imagine if you picked up the phone and it was just your friend screaming and you...
I mean, I can, and that's terrifying.
Yeah. Okay, hey, do you want to go next, Anastasia?
Yeah, I can. So earlier I mentioned my first experience watching The Blair Witch was when it first came out in 1999 with my mom. And I don't know if everybody's aware of the marketing that was going on for this. Okay, so at the time, they were really marketing it as a true documentary, a true found footage film, because prior to The Blair Witch, there had only been one movie that was dubbed also a found footage film, which was Cannibal Holocaust. And so it wasn't as popular of a genre as it is today. I mean, this basically boosted the genre in itself, but it's also a student film. So it's very low budget, and it makes it believable that this would have been based on a real experience of somebody with found footage. And my mom and I, after we got done watching it, my mom was there's no way that these kids' professor sent them out into the woods. And we got on our computer, which was a Gateway 2000 on dial-up internet, and went on Google to try and confirm that this was not real. And we could not find anything on it. Even their online campaigning was so well controlled at that time. So for a few years, I did kind of think that this was a real story.
I can see that making it a lot creepier.
Yeah, it definitely was. And of course, my mom is a mood setting movie watcher, and so am I. So we watch it with all the lights off. So next, Sarah, do you have one?
Yeah, well, I don't really have a memorable experience. I watched it in high school with my now husband, but that was a time of my life where I was very scared of watching scary movies. I did not watch scary movies. And I think it was just like a whole bunch of teenagers making fun of the movie so that we weren't scared. But then as an adult, it is definitely one of my favorite horror movies. I love low budget. I love found footage. So I just think that the execution was really masterful. I love a slow burn. So the way that this, and like anyone who knows me, Grave Encounters is one of my favorite films of all time. And the way that this movie, and Grave Encounters definitely inspired by Blair Witch Project, nothing really happens for, the majority of the film. Nothing spooky really happens. It's just, is it happening? Is it not happening? I love when film creators do work like that, and how most of the tension and the horror is about being lost in the woods and just this frustration and this animosity between the group. Yeah. Bryan, what is your background with this movie?
So I saw it in the cinema with my mother and my uncle in 1999 when it came out. So I would have been 15 when I saw it. And yeah, geez, it was almost a little bit like Anastasia, like you said. One, the only thing I knew about it was, this is true, this was found. As you said also, this is before found footage. So look, they found this footage. They're putting it in the cinema for us to see. We need to be aware of the threat out there of witches. But just, watching it and just being like, okay, this is probably not real, but I think it's real. It's like brain versus heart. It's like, when some kid who's like 2 years older than you in school tells you this thing that's absolutely ludicrous, but you have no way to fact check it. So you're like, man, I better never look left at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or my head will stick to left for the rest of my life. That kind of thing. Like, it was just, no way to fact check it. And I don't know about North America in 1999, but in Ireland in 1999, maybe the government had the internet. Maybe our secret intelligence service in the internet, we did not have the internet. So there was literally, we couldn't even do it Anastasia, what you and your mother did, where we could at least try. So I remember coming out of the cinema just being like blown away, but also a little bit like, because we weren't ready for found footage, there was a little bit of almost like the Emperor's New Clothes, where it was like, is this as good as everyone says it is? Or did I just see something really terrible and blurry for an hour and a half and I'm just giving it credit because that's the zeitgeist at the moment? Or I probably didn't know what zeitgeist meant when I was 15, but I definitely remember coming out and like that last image, just, I think it's Mike in the corner facing into the wall. You can criticize the movie all you want, but just that 5 seconds at the ending is kind of like Grave Encounters. That's what they're building up to. Like, everything else it is what it is, but just that ending, it's just, you can't defy it. It stuck with me for days. I remember we had woods near where I live in Ireland when I was a kid, and I used to play in those woods. And I remember going into those woods a couple of days later by myself, and I think I was in the woods for about 5 minutes, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go home. I'm not scared. I just feel like going home right now. So that was my experience with it at 15 anyway.
Something that you brought up made me think about it, but I feel like that is why the movie is actually as scary as it is, and so, like, I don't want to say infamous, but it's like such a staple in the horror community because it's so realistic. Like, everything that's happening to these people could happen to you, and there's nothing, like, there's supernatural undertones, but you're not seeing anything supernatural happen. And so there's not that necessary like suspension of disbelief. So I feel like the realism of it is what makes it the most terrifying.
Yeah, and like, I think if it was made now, it'd be very hard to resist the temptation, whether it's CGI or otherwise, just to have a glimpse. Whereas like, you don't see anything. But again, I think if someone had asked me when I came out of seeing it the first time, did you see her? Do you see the Blair Witch? Nenia, you were saying earlier, about people with a visual imagination and how easy it is to fuel that. If you just set a little fire, they'll just go off by themselves with that stuff. And like, I think I would have said, yeah, I think you see her a couple of times, not much, but just enough to terrify you. But you don't see anything. It's like, I think I read somewhere that they were very inspired by Jaws. Imagine Jaws if the movie was constantly showing us a mechanical 1970s shark. Like, it just wouldn't be the same thing. And Blair Witch is the same. Like, you could dress up an old lady, put prosthetics on her, give her the, like, did they say she's hairy? I think she's hairy all over. Yeah. But then once you've seen it, like, that's it. Then it's in a box and that's it. And you can kind of go, okay, well, that's probably not going to walk up to me in the woods near my house because that's very crazy looking. But as soon as it's effort, in the sky and in your mind, then yeah. So I think the fact that they probably didn't have the budget to do some things they might have done otherwise really worked in their favor to keep it realistic.
I think a comparable film is Paranormal Activity. And I think in both cases, the low budget is what makes it so scary because it goes into this uncanny valley version of reality where you're second guessing yourself because it's just normal and low budget enough where you can kind of tell yourself it's not scary, but something doesn't seem right. And I think that dissonance is what causes the horror. And I think it's really effective, more so than like CGI might be.
For sure.
Oh my gosh, Paranormal Activity is still a movie that I am scared to rewatch because just waking up in the middle of the night then feels sinister. And you can't help it if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, I cannot look at the clock right now.
Yeah.
I do not need to know what time it is.
I rewatched that it came out when I was an adult, but like as an adult. And I actually could not get into it anymore because Mika really fucking pissed me off because he is such a gaslighter to her. And I just ended up turning it off because I was just like, this would not happen if it weren't for you. You're the fucking problem. And then I'm glad he's like eliminated at the end. I was just like, thank God.
And he's the one who brings the Ouija board into the house when she expressly says, do not bring Ouija board into the house.
Oh my God, right? Like, it's literally all his fault. And I'm just like, oh my God, I can't stand this. And then like I tried watching the second one and it was the same thing with the sister's husband that was doing the same thing to her. They're like, you're just being paranoid. You're just being crazy. You're just being hysterical. And I'm like, I would throat punch these fuckers. Like, I can't.
Moral of the story, if you YOLO your way through a haunted house, you're going to get yeeted from life at the end of the movie.
Speaking of annoying characters, because this movie, like you could argue, are they annoying people or just annoying characters? But I think the annoying character or the character who acts in a way that frustrates is essential to many horror movies, especially like an unlikable character, not just an unlikable character, like a hateable character. Is like I'm thinking about Justin Long in Barbarian, the characters you were just talking about in Paranormal Activity, in Talk to Me, the main character. Like I think they're just so important to the plot. So what did you think about the characters in this film?
I can go first on that one because I watched it last night, like as a refresher. And I was like frustrated by all of them. But this guy that I'm dating watched it with me. And we were talking about how Heather's tone is always super accusatory and contentious. And it kind of feeds that level of frustration that everybody is feeling. And I think that is what kind of sends people over the edge because she's such an instigator in those instances because she's trying to control everything. She's like, I'm the only one that knows how to read this map. And it's like, really? Like, you're not going to let somebody else try to do this? And then when the map gets lost, I mean, I know she's proven right, but she's just like, did you guys take it? And just like every situation she approaches with like contention and aggression. And I'm just like, girl, like you guys need to work together. First of all, like, please calm down. And I hate to say that about a woman because I was literally just complaining about men gaslighting women. But I do think it is a point of agitation in the movie and creates that tension that we're all feeling. So it's necessary. But also we discussed how it is very human how they react. They react exactly how I would expect like people I know in the real world to behave if they were put in that similar situation, which also makes it just the more frustrating. And I was like, I don't know, everybody's a liability at this point. If I were with them, I might just abandon them and try and find my own way out.
Yeah, look, agree on definitely. They feel like real people. Like, I think that's, and even if you watch, I'm trying to think of an example. So I don't know if you've seen Cloverfield. So basically Cloverfield is found footage, but at the start they do things very like in a normal movie fashion where they set up each character. So like, oh, this is the jock, this is the kind of strident cheerleader one, this is the party guy, you know, it's just all archetype characters, which you need sometimes. But in Blair Witch there's none of that. Like they're all kind of annoying, they're all kind of right, they're all kind of wrong, and not one of them really, even I guess Heather, the director, is meant to be, like, she got a lot of hate at the time, the actress and the character, which is like they're all using their real names, which is unfortunate when everyone's saying you're annoying and you're this and you're that. But like, she's not really the Captain Ahab. Like, there's really no point where things start to go wrong and she could have saved them and she doesn't. You know, there's not that point where she's like, oh, I got to do this for the movie, I'm going to pretend that didn't, you know, there's nothing like that. So they're all kind of doing things right. They're all kind of doing things wrong. Like, you know when they find the stone cairns, like the little stone piles, and it's Josh who knocks over one of the rocks. So one of the guys knocks over one of the rocks. Heather, really quickly, picks it up, puts it back on. She's like, let's not do that. Whereas I feel like, you know, if you're like, she's the bad guy, she's the one who caused all of this. Like, I think they're basically doomed as soon as they went into the woods. Like, I think after that, there's no decision any one of them could really have made. Maybe that first day, and actually when we did the rewatch for this, my wife made a good point. She said, were they doomed from when they walked into the woods, or were they doomed from when Josh knocked that rock? Like, for the first day, were they just in the woods, the Blair Witch is kind of sleeping or doing whatever she does, and they're just about under her radar, and then when he knocks that rock, is that like someone ringing her phone? And she's just like, oh, wait a minute. But look, like again, I just like the fact that they all, Anastasia, like you said, like they're reacting realistically. They're annoying as fuck sometimes, but there's not really that point where you face palm and say like, what are they doing? Because they can't do anything. Like, they're trying to get out of the woods. They can't get out of the woods. They're arguing with each other, which you would be. Like, as you said, probably the best case would be just sneak out of the tent in the morning, try and go solo, hope for the best, hope she takes the other two while you're out getting to safety.
I want to modify my answer based off of your Captain Ahab comment, but you are right, because Heather does have a moment of redemption when she, like, the infamous shot with her nose running and all, like, the snot coming out, but she admits that a lot of this is her fault because of her control issues. So you made a really good point there. But yes, they all suck to a certain degree.
Nenia, what did you think?
I thought it was interesting because I heard one of the criticisms of it is that the acting is bad, but I feel like it was intentionally bad because the whole point of it is kind of like you have these kind of borderline narcissistic ex-theater kids who are like, we're going to make a documentary. And I was thinking, what would the personality of someone who's going to be making a documentary in the woods? And I'm like, hey, welcome to my YouTube channel. We're going to the haunted woods at 4 a.m. I hope the ghost doesn't get us. And I'm like, this is literally the 90s version of that. And I think in that lens, the acting is really good because they're acting well to show what bad acting would look like from someone who's in their late teens and early 20s, who's doing something incredibly stupid for fame and clout. And I found that really fascinating, especially since they take it too far and they end up finding something that's potentially, wink, wink, a little more realistic than they bargained for. And they're not equipped for it. So they make all these mistakes and they end up becoming incredibly like offensive to the evil entity, which I feel like is the premise for a lot of folk horror. Like, you know, they do something that violates the taboo or like the norms, and then they get punished by a supernatural force. So it was really interesting. I feel like the punishment didn't fit the crime, but the acting was really good.
I wanted to comment on that one too, because in the very beginning, I forgot, like when they start out the documentary, that Heather does this whole introduction where she kind of has like an anchor woman's voice going on. And I was like, why are we doing this? But now that you brought up the parallels of what that would be like today with a YouTuber going in there, I was like, oh my God, that is so true. And we would totally criticize that person. I have a fun fact about the film too. A lot of this was improvised. So they gave like a general script that they could follow, but a lot of it was improvised at the time. So that might also contribute to what people consider bad acting, but I feel like they still responded like very realistically. So
yeah, and I don't think it could be replicated today because part of the charm is they really captured how awkward people were in front of video cameras in the 90s. And now that everything is on camera, people are used to performing all the time like they're going to be on video or camera at any moment. And so I think a lot of that self-consciousness has been lost. I don't know how you could replicate that accurately today.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I want to ask you an unfair question because I don't have a theory for this, so I'm probably going to have to come up with a theory on the spot. What do you think happened? What version of the legend do you think was real? Do we have a clear answer?
I honestly don't know. Like, I think you could argue the supernatural route. I think you could also argue they were eating weird shit in the woods, right? Weren't they foraging? So, like, I think you could also argue that, like, their dehydration and their growing frustrations with each other and like the antagonism and like possible food poisoning with mushrooms or like bad yeast, like the one that started the witch hunts. I feel like you could argue that maybe they went mad and they started killing each other, thinking that maybe one of them was possessed and like it was all just a hallucination. But I also think, yeah, you could argue that like there actually was a witch and like they called her wrath by knocking over the cairn, and then she was killing them in pairs while the other one stood in the corner, just like the townspeople said. So I think that's really interesting, the fact that it is left open to interpretation. You could really think either way. Bryan, you want to go next?
Okay, for me, I think it all happened, but that's because that's how I want it to be. Like anytime I watch anything supernatural and they're like, oh, it's open to interpretation. I'm like, no, my interpretation is exactly what you said in the back of the DVD cover. This is what happened. I'm not taking any second best. But yeah, look, exactly. Like you could say it's them going crazy in the woods and all this, but I guess for me it happened. Like I just feel like when you see the interviews at the start with the townsfolk, and I know again you could say, well, the townsfolk put these ideas in their heads so that when they're going crazy in the woods, this is how it manifests. But I just think for me, it's in the universe of the movie, it happened how it happened. Like I really do think they fucked around in the woods and found out in the worst possible way. Because at the start, you know, the townsfolk, I think like the three main things they talk about are the guy, Rustin Parr from the 40s, the one who was taking the kids, and he's the one, you know, standing in the corner while he's killing the other one. They talk about the little girl seeing the lady who's floating, and then there's the guys who go in, I don't know, they're searching for her or someone else, and they find those guys basically after being constructed into like a human torture pyramid. And I just feel like if it's not real in the universe of the movie, those townsfolk are just the worst kind of small town people who just lie to city people for tourism dollars. So I like to think that it's all real, but that's me.
Much like Bryan and Fox Mulder, I too want to believe. So I say that it all happened. And I actually have a theory about like the actual ending because it's a little ambiguous for people. But I think what is occurring is, you know, they talked about Rustin Parr killing the children in pairs like that. And so I believe because the Blair Witch is, you know, an entity and she's not like a tangible entity, she like possesses people to kill for her essentially. So when they're in the house in the woods, which also was that supposed to be Rustin Parr's house? Okay. Well, they get to that house and you notice Heather's camera is the black and white one and that doesn't record sound. It's only Mike's, the color one, the RCA, that can capture sound. And so you can kind of hear Heather's voice go in and out, which I thought was a really cool way to create dimension in these scenes. But like they're being lured to the top and then they're being lured to the bottom. And I think that that was a ploy to like get them divided. And, you know, I feel like Josh is possessed by the Blair Witch. He is like the next Rustin Parr, essentially. And then he gets them separated. He compels Mike to sit in the corner like the children do. And then when Heather comes downstairs and you hear that through the camera that Mike dropped instead, you see that she's like instantaneously knocked out. And I think that that's like Josh killing her. And now he's going to kill Mike.
Wow. I never thought about Josh. I always took it as the spirit of the Blair Witch. I didn't think it as Josh being at the end. That's really interesting. Yeah.
I think that's a really good theory. And also, how am I scared? I'm like creeped out at 2:56 p.m. in my closet. It's like light outside, but in here it's dark. So I'm very creeped out right now. I think the reason I didn't have a theory is because I also just didn't question. I'm like, obviously the witch, like obviously the witch. But Anastasia, I like that you have really thought out this through. And I like that idea that Josh is still involved. So my next question is, do you like camping? And what would you hate most about being lost in the woods? And I'm going to call first on Anastasia this time.
So I do like camping, but I have to have my hair braided, like the French pigtails, before I go out, because the one thing I cannot stand is dew and how it makes my hair frizz up. And I feel really dirty for some reason when that happens. So like I have to have my hair braided the entire time that I'm camping. So that sensation doesn't trigger my OCD and I like freak out. But if I were lost in the woods, like in this exact scenario, like I said, I would probably separate myself from the group, to be honest, because like I would just logically be thinking like, you guys are becoming liabilities and I'm not going to die because of you. And so I would take my life into my own hands. But if I were like, you know, going out into the woods by myself or something, or, you know, with other people, not in this movie or anything, and we got lost, I would initially try to recall as much astronomy knowledge as I have as possible to find the North Star so I could just go north, or find a body of water and follow the stream. That would be like my two. But I know technically they say that you're supposed to just stay where you are, because eventually when you don't come back, people are going to send search parties. But I don't trust that either. I think I just have my own control issues. Like I don't want to rely on anybody else like that. So then I'm going to ask Nenia.
Oh man. Okay. I hate camping. And I feel very validated by this movie and my hatred of camping. Kind of like when I watched The Ring and I'm like, well, she would never get me because I don't answer the phone. Haha, you know, like I've never been lost in the woods, even though I have been taken camping against my will. I did get lost in a wheat field in the middle of Ireland about 5 years ago. And I was so sure I was going to get Wicker Man because I was drunk. I'd just come out of the bar. It was almost midnight. I'm like, okay, I'm going to die. Like, I've seen this movie. And then I managed to get back on a path and I found these college girls who'd also just come out of the pub. And they were like, oh, yeah, you went the wrong way. It's just down that way. And I'm like, oh, thanks. So that was really scary. I feel like I'm kind of torn with what Anastasia said because, yeah, you want to stay in one place, but like, what if there's no food or water or shelter? And also, what if that's where the bad stuff is happening? You want to like get away and find help. So, yeah, I think you'd have to like look for some sort of landmark and hope you find some nice college girls coming out of the pub who can help you. Sarah, what do you think?
Oh, what would I hate most about being lost in the woods? Well, I imagine they're getting bitten by a lot of mosquitoes. That sounds horrible. You're having to like poop on the ground. Probably you don't have any toilet paper. And also, one of the times when I rewatched this movie was at a point in my life, I'm sorry to my parents, when I was quitting nicotine. And when that guy loses his pack of cigarettes, I was just like, oh man, that's so real. Bryan, what about you?
I like camping. I love being in the woods. So probably the biggest issue for me would be if I got lost, there'd probably be a 2 to 3 day period before I realized I was lost. I would just be running around the place, having time of my life before I realized, man, I'm feeling cold, tired, haven't eaten. But yeah, I guess body of water again, and maybe try and stay in approximately the area that you think you went into the woods. But, you know, again, depends on the woods. Like Ireland, we have no venomous creatures. We have no poisonous insects. You're pretty safe in the woods, you know, unless you starve. That would be the only thing, because I would not be good at identifying what I should eat and what I shouldn't. We do have wheat fields full of wicker men. That's the only thing that you need to watch out for in Ireland. But other than that, and that's unusual, we would only go for North Americans, college girls. That's pretty much it. Like, once you're there for a few months, you're considered local, you'll be safe.
Do you think that the real horror was group projects? Would you keep filming? I think that tends to be the point where it's hardest to suspend disbelief. I love what they do here. You know, I love found footage. I love the determination to keep filming. But would you keep filming? Do you have questions? Those are basically my questions. But yeah, would you keep filming? And then what questions do you have?
I can go first. So I like the reasoning that they gave behind wanting to keep the cameras rolling. And I think that there's like an extra layer to that, which is when you're seeing things through a lens, you're like a detached reality at that point. So like, that's why it seems like Heather kind of clings on to continuing to record, because if she's seeing it through the lens, it's not actually happening to her, which also probably adds to the tension between her and Josh and Mike, because Josh and Mike are definitely more rooted in what is happening to them. And if I were in that situation, I don't know. It's a fucking shoulder camera. I think I would have just like left that somewhere. I'd be like, no, this is also a liability at this point. Like, I need to be as light as possible so that I can flee when I need to. And then if I might have some questions, but I'll wait for everybody else to go first. So I pick Bryan.
Yeah, I think I keep filming. I gotta say, Anastasia, you're right. Like, they do have the old tank unit up on their shoulder, but I feel like if you're stuck in there, like, humans are pretty optimistic. It's in the DNA, it's how we survive. So I think you're still thinking, oh, I gotta get this on tape. Like, this is gonna be so good when I get rescued and everything ends happily and I'm out in the world and I'm gonna make my fortune from this. You know, none of them, I don't think until the last second, none of them are thinking, man, I'm going to end up in a basement getting ripped apart by Josh and or the spirit of the Blair Witch. Like, you always think there's a hope. So if it was me, I think I'm filming. And especially, as you said, look, if it's now, it's my phone. My phone's probably in my hand anyway. I may as well just turn the camera on. It's, you know, it's not a big deal. So I think I'd have to go. And Anastasia, same as you, I do have some questions and things, but I want to hear if Nenia would keep filming.
Yeah, I think Anastasia brought up a really interesting point earlier about gaslighting. I think a lot of horror is about questioning your own reality and like what you think is real and possible when horror introduces other realities. There's this horror movie that honestly scared the shit out of me, even though it's a little bit creepy and cheesy, called Oculus. And it's basically about a haunted mirror inside this house that can create alternate realities and hallucinations. And there's this scene where she sets it up to film and she thinks that one thing has happened, but then when she plays it back, because computers, you know, they're machines and they can't really be swayed or lied to, and she plays back the footage and it's completely different than what she believes happened. And I feel like that's really chilling. And if you're like potentially experiencing supernatural forces or hallucinations in the woods, it would help to film and like see what the footage is telling you versus what your brain is telling you. I guess one question I had was the bundle with like flesh and teeth. I was like, what's with that? Like, where did that come from? Because at the end, Josh is like off camera, right? So you don't see his face and you don't see what's happened to him or if that even really came from him or if it was from something else. And so I think the fact that you just have like this disembodied lump of flesh is so depersonalizing and creepy. It made me wonder, like, what happened with that? And it's scary that we don't get an answer. And
So the rumor I heard about that in high school, and Anastasia, if you know more, Bryan, if you know more, maybe you can correct this. The rumor I heard was that, yeah, there was a lot of improvisation, but also the film creators were doing things unexpectedly to the cast. And so I think Josh disappearing, they were not expecting that. And I think maybe the bundle was also something they were not expecting to find and was like a real raw reaction. So yeah, I don't know that we ever have that clarified, but I think that the implication is something happened to Josh. But yeah, you're totally right about that. What was the question again?
Would you keep filming?
I would. I've seen too many horror movies. I would keep filming. I would be like, I don't know what's going to happen. This might be the end, but I know that I got to keep filming. No matter what, I can't turn this camera off. I got to do it for the art.
I wonder about the ethics of scaring the crew like that. Did they have to sign a waiver before or after? Like, it reminds me of how Stanley Kubrick terrorized Shelley Duvall on the set of The Shining to make her acting better. I feel like that kind of verges on psychological torture almost. So I do wonder what the experience of actually making this movie was like and whether it had an effect on those actors later.
I watched an interview with the three actors and they were talking about it and they were saying, yeah, it definitely had an effect. Like Anastasia, you said earlier, like they didn't really get a script. Like they had a rough outline, I think like a 35-page outline saying, this is kind of what happened. So all the dialogue is improvised. And a lot of the stuff that happened, like, you know, when they're in the tent and the tent just starts getting messed around with and pushed in, they weren't expecting that. I think the Josh bundle, they weren't expecting that. Josh disappearing, that wasn't in the script. The filmmakers pretty much like, Josh, come over here. And then just took him out of the woods. So they woke up and they're like... And the other one was... You know when they wake up and they've got their own little cairns outside the tent? Like, you know, there's the three that I guess is meant to represent them. The filmmakers did not want them to know about those. So when they went into the tent at night, those cairns weren't there. The filmmakers ran in, did the cairns, but I think it woke up one of them, maybe Josh, and he kind of stuck his head out and they had some magic word or something when it was basically like, this is fiction for a second, pretend we're not here. Almost like, you know, when you're watching a stage play and you've got the people all in black who are just coming on, like doing the props and things like that. And they were just like, so time out, we're just going to do this, shut up, go back to bed, And then, yeah, so when they woke up in the morning, then two of them did not know the cairns were going to be there. And whichever one woke up kind of had half an idea. But again, like, it was in the woods at night, so wouldn't have seen that much. But apparently they were saying anyway, it was really pretty traumatic. Like, they knew what they were signing up for to a degree. But again, I think, Nenia, you said now everything's so performative. Like, even if you don't watch horror movies, you'll have seen a horror reel or like a horror TikTok, or you'll have seen like whatever. But they were going like with nothing. So they're just like, oh yeah, a movie. That sounds nice. Like, I've seen scary movies. They were not expecting to be in the woods getting absolutely fucked around with the whole time. Like, there's times apparently when they're on camera having arguments that's not in the world of the Blair Witch. That's literally just the three of them arguing because they don't know where they're meant to be going. And also, and this is slightly off topic, and I know I'm going to ramble here, but they filmed everything. So the three of those, like, everything you see in that movie is literally those three actors filming it. So normally nowadays when you see found footage, like, you know, even Grave Encounters or Paranormal Activity, or it's made to look like found footage, but it's a professional camera person behind the camera. They literally like were learning how to use the camera equipment and the DAT, and then they're pretty much like, okay, into the woods, there you go. So like some of the interviews at the start, if you look, they almost look like 1990s grunge videos. Like, the angles are really weird and the exposure's off, and it's literally just them learning how to use their cameras. Like, it's not even trying to be artsy, it's just Josh or whoever just trying to figure out the color correction. So like, imagine like they're in the woods, they're improvising everything, they're the camera people, they're not really seeing anyone, and they're just losing their effing minds.
It's funny that you brought up the 90s camera angle, because like I specifically pointed that out, but it's just like the quintessential 90s angle. And then like also when Heather was putting on her lipstick right before they were supposed to go hiking, I was like, it's essential. You got to have that brown liner, red lip combo in all of this. But one of my questions for you all was the scene where they're in the tent and there's like hands pushing on there. First of all, my assumption is that those are the kids, like the ghosts of the kids. But would you guys have run out of the tent? I'm like, what was the plan? What was the logic? Like, why would you be fleeing? Because like, what can you do? So yeah, I was like, I don't even know really what I would do in that situation. So I was curious if one, you guys would run, and two, what you would do if you decided not to run and just stay put, or like, what would be your alternate plan instead of running?
Have any of you seen the movie Terrified?
That movie actually scared me so bad that I had nightmares and woke up screaming. And that does not happen to me.
The Argentinian one?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You know, not the main character, the guy who is first affected by the haunting, like the supernatural, where something is just coming out of his closet at night, and he knows that there is this thing in his room, under his bed, by him. And he just, he's just like, I'm just going to close my eyes. I'm not going to look at this thing. I'm going to sleep. I would be that guy. I would be like, nope, it's not happening. If I just go to sleep, it's fine.
Yeah, look, it's a tough one, because I think as a human, you're inside a tent, so you feel like you're in some kind of structure that's safe. But obviously a tent is like, you could rip apart a tent. So it's more like almost like a visual sense of safety than anything real. If it was me, I don't know, same as Sarah, like, I think part of me would just be fetal position, tense everything up as much as it'll tense, and just, see what happens. But yeah, I don't know that I would run out into the woods, like, at night. But again, it's hard to know, because if you're just in like hysterical panic, I don't know if you're making good choices. But yeah, I think for me, fetal position, every muscle tense to the point where I'm going to do myself an injury, and just try and do deep breathing for like 8 hours until the danger subsides. Nenia?
Well, my thinking is they're pushing on the tent, but they're not in the tent, which maybe means that they can't get inside the tent. So I don't understand why you would fucking leave, because if they could get you, they would. So clearly something is keeping them from. Why would you give them what they want? Oh, I would stay in that tent, pop an anxiety pill, go back to bed, like wake up refreshed, moisturized, hydrated, get F out of the woods.
Right. And like, my thing is too, like, somebody had to at least bring a knife, because like that's kind of essential when you're out camping, or like a machete. I don't know. Like, I know they weren't expecting to be out there.
God,
what?
It's Maryland. So like someone probably had like a rifle.
I know. I was just like, you're telling me not one of you has a weapon, because that would be, I would stay in the tent, but I would like, so like my pocket knife, like I would just have the blunt edge on my wrist and like just waiting, basically be like, all right, somebody comes in, or maybe even like stabbing the hands as they're like coming through. I don't know. But
the car key shanks where you put the keys
Yes.
for each of your fingers and you have like the claws. I mean, I hate to blame the victims because I know they were all super scared and irrational, but like, who goes into the woods and doesn't even bring like a hunting knife?
That's what I'm saying. They were just like, so, I mean, I guess like, I don't know, like I would have done so much research before I went, but was that possible for them considering like, when I signed into Google today, it said it's its 27th birthday. So was Google even around then? I'm going to do quick math. 2025 minus 27.
Google was around in 1999.
1998 is when it first came out. So I don't know. They had Google.
Well, it said the movie was filmed in 1993 or 1994, and then this footage was released 5 years later in the beginning of the movie. So I don't think they would have had the internet, at least not as it was today.
Mm-hmm.
I love a cast like this. So other like character group like this. I love unprepared characters. I love characters who would not do what you would do, like who would do exactly the wrong thing. That's, I don't know. I just love something about that.
But I like in the Blair Witch that they do the wrong things. But, well, one, I don't even know if anything to do would make a difference anyway. Again, it comes back to where they're doing it all wrong. But also, like, they do the wrong things, but they kind of do reasonably wrong things. Like, they don't do constantly wrong things. You're like, oh, they couldn't figure out how to end that scene, so they just had her run out into the barn. They couldn't figure out how to get to this, so they just had him, like, I don't know if anyone here watched The Walking Dead, but The Walking Dead eventually became just, like, you could literally see, like, screenplay mechanics where they're just like, we'll take this character who would never do this and have them do this because we need them to do this. Like, they'd be, this guy is the best planner, the best logistics guy, and then you have an episode where he would just do something completely nonsensical because you could tell they're just like, oh, otherwise we're going to have to hire a day actor and he's going to have to come and make this decision, so we'll just do this. I do like in Blair Witch, they make the wrong decisions and do a lot of annoying, stupid things, but Sarah, like I said, it's like, yeah, that's the group. If it was me and a group of 3 random friends of mine, that's probably a lot of the things we'd be doing in there rather than doing the smart things.
Okay, so I also have another question for you all. Do you think, and Bryan, this can kind of like piggyback on something that you just said too about like, if you were really in that situation and panic taking over kind of thing, but like, do you all feel like that you have the capability to like compartmentalize what's happening so that you can stay a little bit more like focused and logical to get yourself out of this, and then like be like, I'll just process the trauma later. Like first, just let me survive. Let me compartmentalize. Because I feel like that's kind of how I would respond. But again, like, I don't know. I really don't know because I'm not in that situation. And I would not go into the woods unprepared. That's for sure. But how do you all feel? Like, do you think you would be able to? Nenia, I'm going to pick on you.
God, that's such a good question. I think it's hard to say because like different kinds of horrors can hit at you differently, and it's not always the ones that like you think, because I get panic attacks, and like sometimes the thing that triggers a panic attack is something that you would expect to trigger a panic attack, and then sometimes I'll just be minding my own business and then I'll get double vision and like my heart starts racing and like I get tunnel vision and I start to black out and I have to go down on the floor, and I'm like, why? I was just, eating a piece of toast and now my brain is like, guess what, you're gonna die. So I think it would just depend because like I can compartmentalize, and that is a really surreal feeling when part of you is like hummingbird in a bird cage freaking out, flapping its wings, and then you're doing like the most mundane tasks to survive. But then like sometimes you just shut down because the panic is so intense you just can't do anything else because you're overstimulated. So I don't know. It would depend on how it hit.
Follow-up question to you eating that piece of toast. Did you start paying attention to swallowing and then forget how to swallow, and that sent you into a panic?
No.
The reason I ask is because that happened to me one time. Like my OCD makes me pay attention to sensations and it'll remind me to like breathe. I'm like, oh, we're going into manual drive now. We're not in automatic drive anymore. And I've had that very instance where I'm like eating a piece of toast and I'm having an existential moment. And I'm like, how do I swallow? I don't remember.
Yeah. Now that you say that, that's actually kind of peak cruelty, is like my anxiety pills are actually pretty big. And like when I'm having a panic attack, like I don't want to swallow shit. And then you give me this horse pill that is like, it's like when you have like an allergy attack and you have to swallow the Benadryl and the Benadryl's really big. It's like, swallowing is not what I want to prioritize right now. Oh my God, that sounds bad. Maybe cut that out.
Leave it in. Leave it in. That was amazing.
Swallowing pills.
Please keep it in.
There we go.
Okay, so
Sarah, what are your thoughts?
I think I would be crashing out high key. I don't think I would be compartmentalizing if I'm in the woods with like people who are getting on my nerves, even if they like me, like we're getting on each other's nerves. My shoes and socks are wet. I'm covered in mosquito bites. I'm hungry. I'm eating like whatever I'm finding. I'm dehydrated. I'm tired. Like there's a witch. We're finding weird stuff that's scary. I would be trying to get out, but I would be high key just crashing out. Brian, how about you?
I just really like that you placed wet shoes and socks and then as an addendum, but also there's a witch.
I mean, have you ever had wet shoes and socks?
Oh, the worst. The worst. And I've never been chased by a witch or the spirit of a witch, but I have had wet shoes and socks, and it was terrifying every time.
Yeah.
So
not only do you have wet shoes and socks, everyone in your party has wet shoes and socks.
Even the witch has wet shoes and socks.
Even the witch has wet shoes and socks. Even the spirits of the killed children that the witch took over have wet shoes and socks. It's a disaster. Everyone's having their worst day, and then you run into each other, and no one's going to put the nice foot forward.
Maybe
I don't know.
Was the wet shoes and socks we got along the way.
Yeah, you got wet shoes and socks, no food. As Sarah pointed out earlier, cigarettes are running out. Like, tempers are frayed.
Also, you haven't been able to change your underwear. That would be a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they had that river where they were washing their hands. So, like, they could have done their clothes in there, but they were, college students. So maybe they didn't.
Yeah. And they're not like, it didn't look warm in the woods. So even if they did wash anything, it was still wet. So even if it's clean, it's still wet. So they got dirty wet shoes and socks, possibly clean, but definitely wet underwear if it's clean. No cigarettes, they're running out of food. It's not good. For me, no, I couldn't compartmentalize. Again, there'd be a lot of fetal positioning, a lot of just trying to merge with the background, a lot of saying to other people in the group, maybe you should go and take a look and I'll keep an eye on the tent. Just a lot of little subtle things like that. But no, I don't know. It's fight or flight. And I'd imagine I'd be doing a lot of flight.
Maybe you should go check things out in the woods and kick your foot out a lot in case there's any cairns you can
I think I heard something over there. I think it was a search party. Just go see where those cairns are. They were just over there. We don't want to miss them.
And I stand by you're pooping in the woods without toilet paper. And also, like, what if the other people in the group are better at, lighting a fire than you are, or just like nature stuff than you are, and you're like, am I being a burden?
Oh my God, your anxiety that whole time.
Does everyone here resent me right now?
You're like around the campfire at night, and you're like, are you guys mad at me?
Yeah.
I think that's a really solid point, actually, Sarah. The sensational aspect of it was not something I had considered. And I do think that could really affect people's response to the situation. As much as we don't want it to, like when you're having one of those bad weeks and like something happens where, I don't know, like you put your straw in your cup and your straw breaks and you just start to cry. You're like, this is it. It's literally the straw that broke the camel's back for you. So, okay, I can absolutely.
She puts the cap on her little brown lipstick, and then she realizes that she didn't roll the lipstick back down, and so now it's squished, and she's like, fuck! This is the worst thing that's going to happen to me on this whole trip.
Or when
I think for...
Oh, no, go ahead.
Sarah.
Oh, so we were talking about this before we started recording, but there's an episode of Scooby-Doo called The Scooby-Doo Project. And in that episode, Daphne breaks her nail and her dress gets ripped and her tights get ripped. And then Fred loses his favorite scarf. And they're losing it because of that. And what were you going to say?
Oh my gosh. Nenia, can you repeat yourself? And maybe that'll help me remember what I was going to say.
Oh, I said like her ruining her lipstick was the worst thing that's going to happen to her on that.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember now. Now I can't remember. It's fine. It's fine. You were more important, Sarah.
I'm sorry. Do other people have questions? I'm like, am I being a burden right now? Do you all resent me?
Just face into the wall, Sarah. It's not personal.
I did have a question at the end that I think might be kind of challenging that we don't necessarily have to do. But if you had to make a meme of that last screen of, Mike facing the wall, what would it be?
Oh, wait, I know. It would say, when your shoes and socks are wet simultaneously.
Yeah.
I got timeouts can be murder. That would be it.
That's a good one.
I like that. That's punny. It's punny.
It's funny. It's about all I got.
When all your friends are hanging out getting cursed without you.
That actually sounds like it could have been on the poster for the movie when it got released.
Yeah. I feel like this is probably actually one, but I would just be like, she sent me her location. Bro, what the fuck is this?
I asked ChatGPT and it told me where the witch was.
Just casually luring men to their death.
Do any of you have any other questions?
A question I had, it's just when I was watching it, I guess it's not so much about the plot, it's about how you react to it. Like I found as I've gotten older, so when I watched the Blair Witch Project in 1999, they seemed to me like adults because I was 15. So, when you're 15, even like an 18-year-old is like, oh, they're so sage and wise and they know things. And then when I would have watched it throughout the years, I would have been in my 20s, so I would have been their age. So it would have been like watching contemporaries. Now as I've gotten older, I noticed when I watch especially late 90s, early 2000s horror movies with either high school students or college students, I tend to watch it almost like paternally with adult concern where I'm like, oh, I hope they told their parents where they were going. And oh, I hope they brought extra socks. And oh, look, she's so upset right now. And neither of the two guys are really seeing what she needs from them right now. And things like that. So my question is, does that happen to everybody? Or do I just need to stop watching late 90s, early 2000s horror movies? As you get older, do you view the characters in the movie through a different lens?
I feel like I'm really judgmental because no matter what age I've been at, I'm recollecting all the times that I've watched horror movies, I would just be like, why the fuck would you do that? That's me the whole time during the horror movie. So I guess maybe I just don't have that maternal instinct to care.
And I'm watching it going, oh, we were all young once.
I'm like, that's no excuse. Get it together. But I will say, whenever I looked up the ages and they were 23 and 24, I was like, oh my God, they're babies. To your point of, when you're younger, you think older people are so sage and wise and everything. And now I'm 35, almost 36, and I'm watching that. And they're just babies. What are they doing?
I didn't watch The Blair Witch when I was younger, so I can't really make that comparison. But a really visceral example of that for me is It. Because the first time I read It, I was 13, which was highly inadvisable. Do not recommend, God forbid, if there's any 13-year-olds watching this podcast, please don't. And I remember kind of relating to the characters because they were about the same age as me, plus or minus a couple of years. And then I was so bored with the adult timeline because I'm like, they're so old. I can't relate. And I reread it recently and I was thinking that they were in their 30s or 40s because I was coming into it with those memories of reading it for the first time and being in middle school. And I was horrified to find out that they were late 20s, early 30s. And I was so horrified. I was because it was quite a visceral example of time passing. And I feel like I have gotten more forgiving of younger people's mistakes and foibles as I've gotten older because I realize that humanity is evanescent and there's a steep learning curve learning how to human properly. And so if someone behaves really stupidly and they're under 25, I'm they'll grow out of it if they survive. That's my really long story about It.
Does anyone else have any final questions before we wrap up?
Wait, I do. For those who had seen it, so Nenia, not you, to call you out, that had seen it before, am I hallucinating or wasn't there a story about a little girl who drowned in a creek? A hand came out of the water and pulled her down into basically 3 inches of water and drowned her? Or is that in the Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows?
It could be in Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows. I don't remember. But what it's definitely in is the documentary that they brought out before they released the Blair Witch Project. So they released this TV documentary, The Curse of the Blair Witch, even just to, again, add to like, this is real. Here's this documentary about this other documentary that's coming out soon. And in that Curse of Blair Witch, they talk about that, the little girl in the creek, and it's like really shallow water, and all people can see are like a hand and something else grabbing her and dragging her into the water. So that's it, definitely, you're not hallucinating. And maybe, I don't know if you ever had it on DVD or Blu-ray, but maybe they had it like as an extra feature as well. I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely not a thing that you're creating in your mind. So don't worry.
Oh, thank you. Like, I was like, I swear this was in this movie, but now that makes more sense. I do have the DVD, so I might go to the special features section and see if that prequel documentary is in there. Okay, thank you for making me feel not crazy. And then I think you were coming off mute for a question too, so I'm going to mute myself.
My question was just, and I know we're trying to wrap up, but was everybody happy with the ending? Like, so one thing when I was rewatching it this time, and again, like I said, seeing it in the cinema when I was a kid, the ending was the thing that really stuck with me when everything else might have gone. And over the years, even there's times like I try to watch it and I'm like, oh, I'm not patient enough to watch the Blair Witch today, you know, like the blurry footage and the kids and all the rest. But the ending is always just like, if they never got anything else right, they got the ending right. Apparently, so they made the movie, they went looking for a distributor. The distributor was a bit worried about the ending. The distributor said, oh, the ending's kind of like a non-ending. Can we do it differently? So they actually got everybody back again. And I think that they shot like 3 or 4 different endings. And like really like big, bloodier, more violent, more conclusive, like, oh, this is what happened or this kind of thing. And they tried them all and they just went back to like, no, like the original is, this is what we're comfortable with. We think this is the best representation of what we're trying to do with the movie. So I guess my question for Everin and Nenia, I'll start with you because this doesn't matter if you've seen it 20 times or one time. Did you feel for the movie that you'd watched that the ending fit well?
Yeah, I think the whole premise of the movie circles around like legends and like whether something is true or not true. And so having it kind of end on an ambiguous, ominous note kind of brings it full circle really well.
I think it was very in line with the theme of the movie because there's so much presumption happening the entire time during the movie because like you're not seeing the scary things actually happen. You're seeing the aftermath of it. So you're like presuming a lot about what's creating the situation. Like it's left up to your imagination of like what's actually happening and what's scary or not. So like leaving it a little ambiguous the way they did, I think works really well because yes, it is just as presumptuous as the rest of the film. And I think any other ending would have just been too jarring because when you're saying like there was more blood and everything, I'm like, there's literally like no blood this entire movie. Like it would take me out of it, I think. So I think it definitely worked with how the tension was being created throughout the movie. And then it just leaves you with like unresolved tension. You're just like, oh, okay.
I feel very fondly towards the ending of the film, but do I feel fondly towards it because I actually like it or because it's just kind of an iconic ending at this point? I am not sure, but I think it is an ending I am satisfied with. Okay, my last question for all of you is, where can people find you? And also, what are you looking forward to as we approach Halloween? And I'm trying to think who I haven't called. Anastasia, I'm going to start with you.
So for my like more professional, and I'm saying that with like sarcastic quotations, I am still trying to think of a username that works for me, but my personal is a Scorpio Crone. So that's where you can find me on Instagram, a Scorpio Crone. And then the thing I'm looking forward to the most is Halloween. So I actually have booked a 1-week vacation to Scotland from October 22nd to October 29th. And I'm going to go visit all the haunted places. It's like my treat to myself because when I did my ancestry, Bryan, you might appreciate this, but when I did my ancestry, I have like smaller percentages of like Wales and Denmark and Germany, but like I was almost 50-50 Irish Scottish. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm trying to like visit these places for myself. So I'm doing Scotland first and then I'm doing Ireland next. But like Scotland specifically, I wanted to go to during Halloween because it's such a haunted city. I'm going to Edinburgh.
Edinburgh, I've been a few times and we've done the underground ghost tours where you can go through the crypts and like the old tombs and stuff like that. And it's Edinburgh's where you want to be for Halloween for sure.
I definitely want to go to that cemetery that Zach Bagans and the Ghost Adventures crew went to as well. I need to start getting online and like booking stuff now since it's like less than a month away for me. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to the most. It's like my little gift to myself. Nenia, did you go yet? I forget.
I'm going to try. Can you hear me now? Is it working?
Yeah, I'm sorry I called. I should have remembered that the audio was an issue. I'm sorry.
My computer's really heating up, so I'm frying the audio a little bit. Me at Nenia Campbell, like anywhere that isn't more. No,
We're not getting any of it. I'm so sorry.
Nenia's audio has been cursed by the Blair Witch and is in the corner staring at the wall.
That actually came out perfectly. You heard what Nenia said. I'm going to shout out her social media. She on Instagram is at alwaysbe with 2 E's, at alwaysbe booked. And she is Nenia Campbell everywhere else. And we are really looking forward to reading Nenia's what she's reading over the Halloween season, because she's always reading amazing books and has the best recommendations. And also follow her on Threads, because you will be entertained and also educated. You will.
And because Nenia can't actually use her audio, I was saying, I think I said it before recording, but I recently read Little Deaths by Nenia, and that was amazing, and everybody should read that. And that's factual information there. So that's actually a public service. So I think you actually get a tax break for that as well.
It's a peer-reviewed opinion, yes.
That's exactly it. For myself, on Instagram, I am Paranormal Punk. I think there's an underscore, so paranormal_punk on Instagram. Website, bryanfarrellauthor.com. And I'm also active on Goodreads. If you look up Bryan Farrell or How to Contact the Living, you'll find my little author name there. But yeah, I just spend a lot of time reading and watching things and talking about things I'm reading and watching across various places instead of actually doing any writing that I should be doing for myself. So that's me.
And what are you most looking forward to as Halloween approached, or did you say?
No, I didn't say. I think I was saying to you, Sarah, and Nenia, my wife and I take a horror break in August and September so that we actually have some stuff to watch in October. So I only applied to movies. So books, I'll still read anything horror-y. Some movies, I think I've got a list somewhere, but Weapons, I want to see. And then there's just a lot of like cheesy, cozy, 90s and later horror adjacent spooky movies. So Casper. I want to watch The House with a Clock in Its Walls again. And there was one that came out a couple of years ago on Netflix called The Curse of Bridge Hollow. I don't know if anyone has seen that, but it's almost like a kid's Halloween movie. Surprisingly good, though.
Yeah, I watched that too. Also, you said you want to watch Weapons?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad you have your paternal instincts then, because that is also another protagonist who just makes so many dumb decisions because she's just like a messy human being. And I just remember leaning over to my friend in the theater, be like, she's really fucking pissing me off right now. Like, why would she not do like XYZ? Because there's just like, I think you'll know it as soon as you see it, but you're like, why did you not do this very specific thing to protect yourself from the thing that's happening to you now?
Okay, all right, I'll be ready for that. I think Sarah mentioned earlier, like, talk to me, like the same thing, the whole movie. I was like, she needs to think about her choices. Like, it wasn't even the scariest thing to me, talk to me, wasn't the dead people or the stuff. It was just like, someone needs to sit her down and just give her a good decision-making process she could work off of.
Oh my gosh. Wait, okay, so this is not on the topic of the Blair Witch Project, but I do have a question about that movie for those that have seen it, if that's okay, Sarah. But in the end of Talk to Me, do you guys think that she jumped into traffic or that her friend pushed her into traffic to save her brother? I think she was pushed.
I also think she was pushed.
Yeah, I think pushed. Yeah, I think they're meant to make us think that we're guessing, but I think pushed.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people think that she actually did jump herself. And I was like, based off of all the decisions and how selfish she's been this entire movie, I do not think that she would like end in this way. Thank
you all for listening. An enormous thank you to the guests for being here today. Please follow them all on social media. I'm going to be linking a lot of things. Did you watch the Blair Witch Project? Do you have a memorable story? Tell us, and you can follow it at horror/stories_pod is I think what it is. And thank you for listening.